I'm convinced that this is the greatest loss in human history, which makes me wonder why we don't hear about it more often. The world's greatest library was once home to over 500,000 scrolls and texts covering every subject imaginable. It's been called the cradle of science, philosophy, and ideas. But how did such an influential place get destroyed? Did Julius Caesar burn it down accidentally when he set fire to Alexandria by mistake during a battle with Cleopatra? Or was it a series of unfortunate events that caused its decline? Or did the Great Library slowly lose its importance as it fell victim to natural disasters and neglect? In today's video, we're going to take a look at all the theories and find out what really happened to it. Make sure to stick around for my own theory at the end. So let's get started. Here's what we know. The Library of Alexandria was started by Ptolemy I in the year 283 BC, just 1 year after the death of Alexander the Great. Like many ancient libraries, it began as a personal collection belonging to a powerful ruler. But unlike others, it quickly grew to become the largest library in the ancient world. Situated along the coast of Egypt in the city of Alexandria, the library became the cultural capital of the Mediterranean. It attracted some of the brightest minds from around the world who came to study, live, and work there. Scholars say that it was home to people like Euclid, Archimedes, and Apollonius of Rhodes. But most famously, it employed Callimachus as its chief librarian. Under his supervision, the library amassed hundreds of thousands of books on every subject from medicine to philosophy, history, poetry, religion, magic, and more. To put it into perspective, if you wanted to learn everything there was to know about bronze casting in the ancient world, and if you wanted to read Homer's Iliad or the works of Hippocrates, and if you wanted to know how to build a catapult, you could do so at the Library of Alexandria. And if you wanted to know the latest findings about the constellations and the movements of the planets, you could do so at the Library of Alexandria. You see, they had it all. It literally held the sum of human knowledge at the time. But sadly, it's not here anymore. The extent of the damage varies depending on who you ask. Some say it burned to the ground, while others say that only a small portion of the collection was lost. Regardless, no one knows exactly how much was lost. Some scholars believe that the entire library was destroyed in a single catastrophic event. The most popular theory is that Julius Caesar accidentally set it on fire. During his battle with Cleopatra in 48 BC, Caesar's soldiers set fire to part of the city, and the flames spread to the library, destroying it. Other scholars believe that the library was destroyed in a series of unfortunate events. For example, the Serapeum, which was another library in Alexandria, burned down in 391 AD during a riot between pagans and Christians. This led some historians to hypothesize that the main library suffered a similar fate. Still, others believe that the Great Library was destroyed gradually over several centuries. Each time it was damaged, its importance declined until it eventually ceased to exist. For example, in 270 BC, the library may have been damaged in a battle between Ptolemy II and his brother Magas. Several decades later, it may have been damaged again in a battle between Rome and Ptolemy VIII. Then, in 332 AD, the city was hit by a severe earthquake that destroyed much of the city, including the library. And lastly, in 391 AD, the city was overrun by Christian zealots who went on a rampage, destroying pagan temples, including the Temple of Serapis, where many of the library's texts were stored. While historians debate over how it was destroyed, they agree that the library's demise can be traced back to several key factors. First, there was the problem of collecting duplicates. One of the ways the library acquired new texts was by forcing authors to submit copies of their work to the Royal Library. While this helped ensure that the library had the most up-to-date information on any given subject, it also meant that scholars outside of Alexandria didn't have access to the latest research. Second, there was the problem of preservation. Unlike today, where we have computers and fancy technology to preserve our data, the ancient Egyptians didn't have anything like that. The Library of Alexandria lost thousands of texts every single year due to fire, flood, mold, insects, and other forms of damage. Finally, there was the problem of organization. As the library grew, it became increasingly difficult to keep track of its collection. There were so many books and scrolls that it was impossible to know where everything was. This made it hard for scholars to find the information they needed. Considering these setbacks, it's hard to imagine how the library could have survived for so long. But it's worth noting that even though each of these problems individually would have been enough to cause the decline of most institutions, the library managed to overcome them. It survived civil wars, foreign invasions, earthquakes, fires, and floods. It outlived kingdoms and empires. It saw the rise and fall of countless scholars and leaders. Yet, despite its resilience, the library eventually succumbed to the pressures that threatened it. And when it did, the world lost a treasure trove of knowledge that may never be recovered. Imagine what we could learn if someone found the lost city of Atlantis. Now imagine how much we could learn if we found a library that contained every book ever written in Atlantis. That's how much knowledge we lost when the library was lost. We may never know exactly what happened to the library or how much was lost. But one thing is certain, the destruction of the library was a tragedy for the ancient world and for us today. So now it's time for my own theory. I believe that the Great Library didn't burn down in a single catastrophic event, but rather it was destroyed gradually over several centuries. What caused its downfall, you might ask? Well, it wasn't war or natural disaster, but something far more sinister. Termites. Here's what I mean. Termites are known for their ability to destroy wooden structures from the inside out. They can weaken the structural integrity of a building without anyone noticing until it's too late. Given that the ancient Egyptians stored their books and scrolls on wooden shelves, it's likely that termites would have been a constant threat. Over time, the termites would have weakened the shelves, causing them to collapse. The books and scrolls would have fallen to the ground, becoming damaged and eventually destroyed. This process would have been slow and gradual, occurring over the course of many years, if not centuries. It would have started small with just a few shelves collapsing, then gradually gotten worse until the entire library was nothing but a pile of rubble. The worst part is that there would have been nothing anyone could have done to stop it. Termites are incredibly difficult to detect and even harder to get rid of. By the time it became clear that the library was in danger, it would have been too late. The damage would have already been done. I think this theory makes sense for several reasons. First, it explains why there are conflicting accounts of how the library burned down. If the destruction was gradual and occurred over the course of many years, it's possible that different people would have different memories of what happened. Some may have remembered a single catastrophic event, while others may have remembered a series of unfortunate events. Second, it explains why some people believe that only a small portion of the library was lost, while others believe that the entire collection was destroyed. If the destruction was gradual, it's possible that some parts of the library were lost while other parts were saved. Finally, it explains why the library was never rebuilt. After all, what's the point of rebuilding a library if it's just going to be destroyed again in a few years? Of course, this is just my theory. The truth is, no one knows exactly what happened to it. All we have are a few fragmented accounts from ancient historians. In the end, we may never know what actually happened. But one thing is certain, the destruction of the library was a tragedy for the ancient world and for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more similar content. I'll see you in the next video.